Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Glam Life Podcast. I'm Victoria Rocca. You might know me as Victoria Glam if you follow me over on Instagram, which you totally should. You can also follow this podcast on Instagram at the Glam Life Podcast. And today I have an extra crazy special guest. I say this like every week. I've got to come up with something new. My friend, who is not only an educator and a mentor and a colleague of mine, but is someone who still receives rave reviews from people I know. My friend, EmilyJoy. Hey, Emily.
Thanks, girl. It's so great to reconnect with you.
Yes, how are you? How are things?
Oh, I'm happy spring is here. I picked the only color in my wardrobe other than black just for you to
You
show
look like poison ivy today.
that's what my husband said. I'm like, yeah, that's what I was going for.
Looking
Thank
good.
you.
The last time you and I chatted was just before your wedding, actually. How's married life?
Was it?
Yeah.
Damn. Well, my husband and I basically waited 10 years to get married. We were engaged for 10 years. I didn't unfortunately have the wedding that I had hoped for.
Oh, stop.
It
It was
was
stunning.
2020. Thank
It
you.
was stunning. You guys, you don't even know.
But
So this was during like COVID times. It was live streamed in like a Spanish castle at night with candles.
Thank you. Yeah, it ended up turning out pretty good for planning it 2 weeks ahead of time. We just did it on a whim, but we probably saved, I don't know, 30, $40,000. So we bought a
Yeah.
house instead of a wedding. So it's probably the best thing.
It was beautiful. So
Thank
Emily and I
you.
met because we are both permanent makeup education coaches. So we both teach permanent makeup and we coach people on how to build, market, and scale themselves. So that's how we originally met. But Emily has actually an amazing resume under her belt. So you started in the corporate world. You worked with Anastasia Beverly Hills.
I did before she was the Anastasia. I mean, she was Anastasia Soiree still. So, back when like the pencils weren't wind up, they were like, the manual Pepto-Bismol pink pencils. And she was just expanding outside of Beverly Hills. And I think she picked little of me because I didn't have a lot of experience. So I was, I guess, shapeable. But yeah, I was taught brow shaping, brow design from the queen herself.
That's amazing. And then you managed large teams because didn't you run spas inside of hotels also?
I did. I was in Michigan working for Anastasia, and I pretty much wanted out of Michigan since I was like 6 years old. So I had set my mind on I'm going to someplace warm. I want to be in a big city. I ended up in Miami and I could not find a freaking job for the love of God. I mean, I don't speak Spanish. I get sunburned. I'm like, what am I doing in freaking Miami? What have I done? But my dad was sort of like, I told you so. That was a bad move. And I was so determined to prove him wrong that I applied for a spa manager position at the Four Seasons on Brickell. And I kind of told a little white lie on my resume and I got the
What was
job.
it?
Well, they obviously wanted management experience. And so I considered my management, my little counter for Anastasia management experience.
It counts.
Definitely, I was only managing myself. So I was way over my fucking head. Wait,
It's hard to manage me.
am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Whew. So I pretty much was like, thank God for Google, because this was in,
Yeah.
I don't know when, but I pretty much taught myself how to run a corporate business the first week I got the job because pretty much as soon as I sat down, they're like, we need profit and loss statements from 2006 and blah, blah. I'm like, what is a P&L? Like, I didn't even know.
Stop.
So let me figure that out. And so it was sort of like a do or die situation. And I was so determined to prove my dad wrong that without them knowing, I didn't have experience, I figured it out and survived. And I went from Four Seasons Miami managing a team. I put in a transfer. I ended up in DC. I managed the Ritz-Carlton Spa as well as the Bliss Spa at the W Hotel, which is right next to the White House. And then I just got sick of corporate life.
Yeah.
I missed being like the hero, like brows were so amazing. Like I could just touch someone for 15 minutes and like change their life. But this was a time where like brow tattooing was still a little like, ooh, like, only your weird aunt had it.
Yeah.
And so I remember telling myself, like, I can't make money doing brows. I won't be able to. And it was literally like the heavens opened up and we're like, oh, yes, you can. So I took the first microblading training in the United States from Bronco Bobic before it was Ebrows. And that
And it
was
wasn't in English.
no 2 days over carpet. He didn't even have like, his own pigments. Now he's got like tools. And I mean, I think they even make like hair extensions now. Like it was not anything like that. We were taught with color source. I was the only person in the class that didn't have any tattoo experience.
Oh,
Yeah. They probably shouldn't have even let me in, to be quite honest.
that's the story of your life.
Yeah. And
Don't
yeah.
tell Emily she can't get in that room because she gonna get in that room.
Yeah. You know what? I don't believe in fake it till you make it. I believe in believe it till you achieve it. That's my
Oh,
motto.
that's a good one. That's cute.
Achieve it. I was trying to believe it, but I was like, oh shit, I'm way over my head. And luckily, I sat by an angel named Marie Jenkinson. Do you know Marie?
No.
Okay, she's my mentor. She's been my mentor for 10 years, and she's literally like a walking encyclopedia. She's a nurse. She's an aesthetic nurse. She's been doing permanent makeup for a gazillion years. And any question, anything, she always knows the answer. And she was like, girl, you need help. So she encouraged me to go back to fundamental school in New Jersey. And as you know, New Jersey is pretty strict when it comes to fundamental regs.
Right.
And then it started to finally like click a little bit. But yeah, that was the very beginning of PMU.
That's amazing. So, and then since then, you've scaled, of course. You opened Dollistic in DC where you were living at the time. You had a big team. COVID hit, and you guys said, let's reevaluate. And this is when you moved to San Antonio, right?
I don't even know that I would call it reevaluate. It was like, holy shit, like everything was going so great. And I don't know about you, but like I was busting my ass. Like I'm working every Saturday. I'm like an eyebrow factory, double booking 6 clients a day with the help of an assistant. I mean, we were like the it girls of brows in the Northeast. And we were making loads of money. I was paying loads of money to be in the DC area too, though. My overhead was really high. And we didn't know if we were going to be shut down for 5 years or 5 weeks or 5 months. And all I knew was like, well, shit, if my husband's restaurant shut down and my business is shut down, all I can think of is all the bills we have to pay, know? And rent in DC is not inexpensive. So we were like, oh God, and we'd just been approved to purchase a home in 2019. And we were actively looking to purchase our $1 million fixer-upper in, McLean, Virginia. And we kind of had this aha moment where we're like, shit, we need to go on unemployment. But if we go on unemployment, if we go on unemployment,
that's wild to go from shopping for $1 million home to go, we need unemployment.
Yeah. And we knew if we went on unemployment, that's it. We're going to start from ground zero. We're going to have to, you know what I mean? So I'm like, we need to buy a home that's cheap now.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, we'll figure it all out when we're allowed to reopen.
And your son's name is Waylon, right?
I have a lot of Felipes in my life. My husband's Felipe, my son is Felipe, and so is my father-in-law. So he's Felipe the third. I don't know where you got Waylon, but I dig it.
Oh, you know why? Because Felipe the third and my son Waylon have the same birthday. But I mixed it up thinking they had the same name. They're born October 3rd.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How did I forget that? Oh, they're the same year?
I don't think so. I think your guy's older than mine. What year did you have your son? Yeah, mine came in 17.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm going to have a 10-year-old this year, girl.
Wild.
I know.
So he was 5 or 6 at the time.
He was, and that was another thing. They were like,
he's got to start school.
He's about to start kindergarten, right? Yeah. Online. I'm like, oh, hell to the no. Right? No. Like
a kindergartner online.
No. So we're looking like, okay, where's cheap and who didn't get the COVID memo? Florida and Texas, right? And that was another big thing. We wanted to make sure, because he's an only child, like this child needs socialization or he's going to, end up super weird. Like he needs to be around other kids for sure, especially at that age. And so we just literally took a leap of faith and we were like, sold all of our furniture within a week, packed up our shit, put some signs on the studio. Bye.
That's wild how fast you did
crazy. That. Yeah, it was a crazy time.
That's really crazy. So, but that wasn't forever, right? Because at some point COVID was done and it was time to get back to work. You still had a handful of employees who were like, what do we do?
So I had 5 employees at that time other than myself. And it was always the understanding when we were forced to shut down that we were going to go back to work after we were allowed to, right?
Let me ask you this while we're on the subject. You are super good at contracts. You come from the corporate world. Can you please let anyone listening who's thinking of hiring or has ever hired know what is the difference? How do you know if you have employees or if they are contractors? Meaning if they could have gotten unemployment like you, or if you're responsible for opening back up for them, or what?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see in the beauty industry, in the tattoo industry, is misclassification of employees and contractors. And you don't get to frickin' decide. The IRS decides what they are. Now you can decide what is best for your business. So, for example, if you feel that you want some level of control over what your employees are wearing, how they're treating your clients or your students, or have any sort of behavioral control, they need to be employees.
Okay.
If you want to control their schedule, how often they work, when they work, that's an employee. A contractor essentially is someone, you're just basically like the landlord.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell them what tools they use. You don't get to tell them what pigments they use. You don't need to tell them what apps they have to download. A contractor is someone who is independent. That's why it's called independent contractor. Also, a 1099, that's the same thing as an independent contractor. They're independent of you.
Right.
So if you just want someone to come in and rent a chair, a bed, a room, and not have to worry about managing them, and that's a contractor. So, or a booth renter in the salon term. And
I think a lot of people's first question when they hear that is, yeah, but she works in my building under my name. So people say, oh, that's a contractor. People don't think that. Like clients will think, well, she works for Dollistic. So then they want to say, well, if it's under my name, I want to be able to say like what the business standards are, but that's illegal.
It depends. There's a lot more there. I would have a lot more questions for this person.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why for me, I'm a control freak. I want my controls. Like if one of my clients goes to see another girl, I don't want them to be like, well, when I got it done with Emily, it didn't hurt because she's using, a different numbing than you.
Yeah.
I want to experience.
She's using pink gel, my brow sister, the best numbing on the market.
That was your cue. I wanted it to be a streamlined experience. I wanted, to have some level of control when my, employees were coming and going. And I wanted to be, a cohesive girl party.
Yeah.
Right. And so I knew for sure employees were the way to go, especially because I had to train those girls. I mean, I learned microblading back when microblading, nobody knew what it was. Right. And so I was the only person they could learn it from at the time. And so I also wanted to make sure that I protected my business because of that, because I didn't want someone to, oh yeah, I'll be your employee. Let me learn all this shit and then move across the street and compete. Right. So I, paid an attorney a lot of money to come up with employment agreements to protect my business and my trade secrets. And, now I don't know that would be enforceable because you can learn microblading everywhere now.
Yeah.
Even online, which I don't recommend.
Not for your first time, for sure. So when you're coming back from this world-class mindfuck of COVID, you have employees. So people who are dependent on you, and you have to make decisions, not just for you and Jose and Felipe, but also for 5 other girls.
Yeah, I mean, so basically the story was that we closed on our home, and the very next day, Governor Northam in Virginia reopened. And I called my attorney and she was like, you got to go back tonight. Because if you don't go back, your landlord could say that you abandoned your business. You could be a lawsuit, la, 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 la. And I'm like, oh, shit. So, and at that point, I had donated my gloves and my masks, like the hospital.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but like masks were like $100 on eBay. And
Yes.
you could find things. It was like so stressful. And there was also no government oversight. They had suggestions in Virginia that for close contact procedures, basically saying like you need to limit your close contact. I mean, looking back on it, was such a mind fuck.
All of
But
it was it was like a fever dream. None of it made sense.
we
It
need
was
to write
so
this
vague.
down. Yeah. I mean, it's still a little PTSD because it's like a little blurry in my brain. I think I've like
Yeah.
blocked a lot of it out.
I had
But
just had a baby. It was a lot. It was a lot.
oh my gosh, that's right. So essentially, I was like, okay, I want to protect my staff. I want to make sure everybody feels safe enough to return because that was the plan. Everyone was going to return. We had 1,000 clients who had paid us 50% deposits, waiting for us to reopen. They were so excited. I mean, our phone was blowing up. When can I book? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And everybody felt so ugly because they like couldn't get their nails done and they could not wait for their eyebrow appointment. And they knew we were allowed to reopen.
Yeah.
So I started to looking at like, okay, the government's not telling me how to protect myself. So like, what are the dentists doing? So I'm like on the
That's
ADA
smart.
website. Yeah, I mean, their mouths are open,
Yeah.
like they're like close contact.
Similar.
It's pretty much the same thing, except we're not deemed essential,
Right.
which I would
The
have.
second I could vote against my governor, I did solely out of a bloodthirst because he called me non-essential. Oh, I'm not essential. Neither are you, John Bell.
I have a pretty valid argument for mental.
I don't know anything else about you, but I know that you physically insulted me. Non-essential.
So long story short, I went and I took 1 week of clients wearing, basically a hazmat suit, nose plugs, ear plugs, mouth plugs, butt plugs, freaking a welder shield.
You're so
I
funny.
literally, every orifice was plugged. Okay. I had a welder shield on. I have evidence.
That was heavy.
Because I knew my girls were scared. So I then drafted a.
So you terrified them. Welcome to the moon.
I mean, I wanted to make sure that they felt I did my due diligence in, protecting them. We came up with protocols. I mean, we made everybody drop their purse. I mean, it was crazy. So I welcomed everybody back to work. That's what my attorney said to do. Welcome back to work because, they were on unemployment.
Yeah.
Here are the new safety protocols. I can't wait for us to get started. And every single one of them, but one, sent me an email resigning. And then I thought, well,
they were scared. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, and I can't judge them.
But I remember we were also getting inflated unemployment.
I think that they got some really bad advice. And I think that they felt ashamed that they didn't come back. And I don't judge them. A lot of them had little babies and, I'm sure it was great to have a paid vacation with your baby and, do all these things. I wish them the best, but I didn't have a choice,
Yeah.
I would have loved to stay home with my baby, but
I say that all the time to people who come and work at the Microblading Institute. I say, listen, it's at the end of the day, nobody cares about the wedding as much as the bride. Everybody else is here to have a party, but I'm married now. It's legal for me. So if the doors close tomorrow, you get another job.
Yeah.
If the doors close tomorrow, I go bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was a real, and back then that was the only time like my attorney and my accountant and my banker, like nobody knew what to tell me.
Yeah.
They were giving
it was unprecedented, right? That was the big term everyone kept saying. Unprecedented times.
They thought I should do this. So I really believe in like going above and beyond. So I'm like, I'm just going to do my best. And if I can show that I did my best, then hopefully nobody's going to try to sue me or come after me or, whatever. And I had just moved to Texas.
Did someone sue you?
Well, my attorney suggested that that the landlord may try to come after me if I abandon my business, the space, right? So we've got this big commercial space. There's literally me and Holly. Holly was my apprentice for 3 years. And I said, guess what, girl? You're no longer an apprentice. We have
apprenticing for 3 years.
Literally the only artist I have in DC. We have 1,000 people who either want to book tomorrow or we need to give refunds to. And guess what? The money's gone. That money kept alive. So I can't give refunds. So I just sucked it up and basically went back for 10 days at a time and crammed them all in as much as I could. And it took me about a year and a half. It took us about a year and a half to get through it. I hired a couple other artists remotely for the DC location.
How do you tattoo remotely?
I'm saying I interviewed them remotely,
Oh, oh, oh.
hired them for DC, even though
Silly
you
me.
know it was a very strange time. And we got through it. We survived, but unfortunately, I wasn't building my business here in Texas because I was
Because
just
you were
focused.
focused on running that one.
Yeah, so I really didn't start. And I'll have to be honest with you, after that year and a half, I was like, I hate eyebrows. I fucking hate them.
Burnout.
I never want to see another eyebrow. And I realized, and I could cry thinking about it, that I started to really hate what I love because it started to turn into something that it wasn't. Like we couldn't even see people smile, girl.
Yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to measure your face with this contraption on? And I got this welder shield on and there's freaking glare. I'm like, and people were just, weird. Do you have a vaccine? Is your staff vaccinated? I mean, it was so traumatizing. And it was like, how could it be that I've worked my ass off? I didn't do anything wrong. I
Right.
was about to
That's the
start.
hard part.
I didn't do
That's the
anything wrong.
hard pill to
There's literally like
swallow.
nothing I can do. And so that time really made me hate what I love. And I
Yeah.
decided to take about a year off, which is when I started focusing more on coaching and mentoring um, but I'm back in it, girl.
I see you are. I have a question for you. I just want to
Yeah.
follow up on something that you said. You were talking about how you weren't getting strong guidance from the government. So you kind of deferred to the ADA to see what the dental association was doing and pulled your guidance from there. I don't remember because I had just had a baby and also I have the world's worst memory. My best friend Katie calls me Dory. What was I think you were on the board at the time. What was the guidance or where was the AAM and the SPCP on this? Did they have strong guidance for us?
Ooh, I think it took them a minute. I think it
Yeah,
took them a minute. I'd have to go back and look again. My memory is really foggy. I think it's because of PTSD of the
probably.
trauma during that time. I don't believe they had it at the time that I was allowed to reopen my business, which is why I sought out my mentor Marie, who's a nurse, and she told me all the
Oh
air
yeah, that's a good
to
one.
get and all the things. And people were. I wanted my clients to also feel safe. It's not all vanity, and we have a lot of people that are compromised that are getting
Yeah, sure.
tattooing, right? And so I had clients that were like, I just got done with chemo. Are you sure it's safe to come in? And I was
Right.
just like, I don't know, but I'm
I,
gonna
I
do
wouldn't.
all the things necessary to try to keep you as safe as possible and to keep us as safe as possible because I don't know. So the ADA had it all spelled out. So I just basically subscribed to their newsletter. I still get their emails. But yeah, they had it all spelled out. And so I just kind of tried to mirror what they did. I mean, they were sanitizing mail, they were making everybody drop their purses in a bag when you arrived. I mean, we did it all. We did all
Yeah,
that.
that's so nice.
Thank
What
God we don't do
are
it anymore.
you've been with both boards?
Yeah, again, my mentor Marie advised me to become a member pretty early on in my career, which
That's
I
kind of what I was gonna ask. Like, why? What's the point?
first of all, there's something to be said about the matriarchs in our industry. I mean, if they could tattoo eyeliner with the machines that they were using in the late 80s, early 90s, like there's something to be said about they just have more knowledge than we do because of their experience. And yeah, not everyone that has the experience might be doing like the trendiest, coolest looking things, but they've done a lot of these they've tried it already. They've tried these new techniques. They've tried the under eye concealer. They've tried the contouring. They've tried the cheek blush. They've tried, the lip neutralization. And yes, our tools and our pigments and the wisdom that's just accessible online now is, we definitely have it a lot easier than they did. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
I interviewed Robin Hayes on the podcast and she was telling me how no one would sell her ink.
Yeah.
So she would have to buy like the powders and then also whatever vehicle she wanted to bind it with, and she would have to mix it up in a blender to make her own tattoo inks.
This is why I decided to become a member because I'm like, these women, I have a lot to learn.
I don't hear from my board.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
I don't have a board.
The SPCP is like the valedictorian of permanent cosmetics. right? They're like the top of the class, right? They've got the knowledge. They're a little bit more of elitist. They're not going to just let anybody in the club. They
Yeah,
want to
I
make
feel
sure,
it.
and they're not going to give you the answers on the test. They're going to make you actually study the test to make sure that you've obtained the knowledge, right? So
it's definitely got a lot of science based. Like I went on their website prepping for this call and I found one of my actual favorite I found one of my favorite articles that I've used for years in my class. It's The Color Brown.
Okay.
And it's under, they have it listed under it's by Elizabeth Finch Brown, and it's under articles for text or something. And I mean, I'm not an SPCP member and I have access to it. So it's just like free things, free information for text. And it goes into like how browns are made. So blacks and yellows and reds and different combinations and how you get a mahogany versus how you get a fawn and all that.
Okay, cool.
It's very interesting. So I've just always, from my point of view, thought of SPCP as very science.
Hello, what we do is hard. Why do you want to try to figure it out on your own when you've got matriarchs in the industry that have already figured it out for you and are willing to help you and mentor you?
Ready for PMU coaching without the $10,000 price tag? Enter vipmu group coaching. Check it out right here.
I don't know. I never wanted, I mean, I knew pretty much from day one that I was over my head. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So I knew I needed to sit my ass down and humble myself, even though I thought, oh, I'm good at brows. Like, this is going to be a cinch. I was like, oh, hell no, like pretty early on, you know?
It's wild to hear you say that because you literally came from such a rich background in brows with a concentration in brows.
Yeah.
And
so
then
like,
the second you got into this, you were like, I need help. I need help.
Oh my God. I didn't even know that people bled till I showed up at class. And I was like, you know, and people were in pain. I mean, nobody was talking about microblading. Literally no one knew about it at that point. And I just happened to find it because I followed a bunch of brow artists from all over the world. So I think I just won the timing lottery. But yeah, pretty early on, I was humbled. And I mean, listen, these women are eager to see what this next generation of artists does. And I really feel like we're failing the matriarchs at this point.
Think so?
Yeah.
Where'd we go left?
Well, we're at this weird transition in permanent cosmetics. You know, there are a lot of states that have recently, you know, upped the regs. And I am not necessarily a huge fan of regs. Now, I did move to Texas for a reason, you know, so
freedom.
But to give you an example, here in Texas, cosmetic tattooing is unregulated. I don't know, what is it for you?
We're under the Board of Health, but it's the same pretty much.
Okay, do you have to have a bloodborne pathogen certificate?
BBP, first aid, and
we don't even need a BBP cert, girl.
Yeah.
So we need a licensed facility, but essentially anyone that walks into my licensed facility can legally tattoo and also train people. So there's no minimum standard for fundamental education, and people kind of come to Texas or come to Maryland, the places that are unregulated, to get rich quick and take advantage of maybe people that don't know any better.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like the blind leading the blind. And it's kind of because of accessibility to online education, people are like, well, shit, they don't require me to go to school. So I'm just going to take some online course and get my studio license. And so it's no wonder, like, you know, people just, it's become so big so quickly.
Yeah.
That we're just,
but you know what? It's a bit of a house of cards. And I think that it's falling apart a little bit because every single day, with the way that the economy is right now, every single day I'm seeing people saying, I'm listing all my stuff, I'm closing my shop on Facebook groups.
For sure. I mean, I think we're just now starting to see the repercussions of what it did to businesses. And I don't know if you experienced this, but we had an influx of demand. You know, everybody had
after.
Oh yeah. Nobody was spending their money on clothes, vacation. Nobody could do shit. So had all this excess money. And all those people came out of the woodworks because they were looking busted on Zoom, wanting eyebrows, lips.
Busted on Zoom.
Yeah, they're like, help me, right? And we're like, holy crap, you know, we can't keep up with the demand. And we kind of saw this increase in business. And at that time, there were a lot of people that opened new studios.
Yep.
And now,
And they had a lot of grant money for it.
yeah, and now our economy has really taken a hit. And I don't know, I know that there was the PPP loan, which was forgivable, but there were SBA loans that weren't forgivable that people started to have to pay back this year. Small businesses start paying back. And if you're struggling at all, yeah, that's going to be hard.
It's going to tank you.
So yeah, I think
that's why so many people get into microblading, and especially the way you just described, like they get into it as cheap as possible, dirt, paid dirt basically, but they don't have business education.
No.
I think people don't realize that when they get into permanent makeup, they're opening a business. Is what the long way of what I'm saying.
I think that's actually pretty common even in the spa and salon industry, because at the end of the day, we're artists first, right? Like I know how to run a business because I had to learn, but do I enjoy the creating P&L spreadsheets? Hell no. No, absolutely not. I would much rather be doing somebody's eyebrows and be the hero than be sitting alone in, Excel spreadsheets. So, it's a very two different minds. And yeah, I mean, even though, people might be cheaping it when it comes to education, well, that cheap course could be their life savings.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And so what does that person do who was tricked into taking a training because they didn't know any better? Right. And yeah, I do think some people say, well, they should have done their due diligence. Well, there's so much shit online. And now the people that are really good at social media, really good at marketing, they're shortcutting to the top.
Yeah.
And all of our beloved matriarchs who are amazing at tattooing, have so much knowledge to share. We have so much to learn for them. They're not great on social. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So that's not what they do.
We're not hearing from them. And all these people who are money hungry are climbing to the top, and that's what everybody's seeing online. So, to come
I think that's falling to the wayside. I think those people are being exposed. I think so.
Well,
or not even exposed, but like financially, I think that those businesses are not sustainable.
I don't think those people are going to have longevity. I 100% agree with you. But I'm talking about the girl in middle of nowhere, Texas, who saw this big shiny, and I fell for it too. I'm like, damn, this guy's doing microblading on a baby grand piano. Like, that's who I want to train with.
Not a baby grand.
Oh yeah, I remember. He was in a tuxedo, and it was this model, and she's like, he's literally microblading. And this is in 2014. I was like, okay, there ain't nobody out there doing it. This is my guy, right? So even I fell for that. But so I'm talking about this girl who, spent her life savings on this training, and she doesn't have the resources or the assets to invest in another training. She's maybe going to just be like, I just got to figure this out. Right? I got to make
bootstrap it.
So what does she do? And if you're listening to this and that is you, I would say, try to find a mentor.
Ready for PMU coaching without the $10,000 price tag? Enter vipmu group coaching. Check it out right here. Ready for PMU.
Yeah. And it's not just
for the girls who are looking for the mentor, for the girls who are saying, how do I assess the real from the fake, the people with the proof is in the pudding? I have now laid out your life story in business. I think that's pretty reputable. I can't coach everyone myself. So for those of you who are looking for someone with a strong mind and a loud voice who will tell you right from wrong, where do people find EmilyJoy?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I'm real EmilyJoy on Instagram. I check my DMs. You can hit me up in a PM and a DM. You can go to Dullistic.com. EmilyJoy@Dullistic.com is my email. Just send me a message. I will be honest, I'm very particular about who I work with these days. I know that
I don't blame you.
So I want to make sure that it's a good fit for me. I pretty much only take 5 students at a time because I'm so hands-on with my students. It's not an evergreen program at all. I hold my hand, and it's super customizable every step of the way. I cry with my students. I laugh with my students, and I'm become really close friends with a lot of them after they graduate and leave. But it's the most fulfilling thing to see. Oh my gosh, I went through all that bullshit for a reason, because now I can give advice about what to do. You know, I've been there, I've done that, and I know that you can relate. It's the most fulfilling thing. And listen, not everybody needs a coach. A lot of the people that I've had as students, they're smart. They could probably figure it out on their own, but I'm maybe giving them a shortcut on how to get to the finish line.
And confidence.
And like, again, who wants to run a business by themselves? It's fucking lonely.
It is.
It can be so.
Let me pay you this compliment, because there were people who, when you and I first met, were your students at the time. So that's at least 3 years ago, who I still see tagging you on Facebook when people say, who should we go to? And they're like, Emily, she's the best. She's the best. Emily's the best.
You're the best.
I think that speaks volumes about the relationships that you have with your students.
Oh, thank you.
If people 3 years down the road don't say your name anymore or don't want to speak to you anymore, I think that also says volume. So when I started seeing that, even over the last couple of months, as I'm like noticing, you know, I thought, she's doing really well. I want to reach out to Emily. I want to see how she's doing.
I love all of them so much. And you know, they've also
shout out to Kayla.
Hey, Kayla. They've all served a purpose, because that was a really hard time in my life that I became a mentor. And, you know, looking back, I was so lonely. You know, I'm in a new place and I didn't have any friends. We're not allowed to go anywhere. And so that was sort of like my social outlet were my students. And I would totally take it personal if my advice and my guidance didn't help them achieve their goals. Like, I literally can't sleep at night, which is why I can only take 5 students at a time. And, you know, I mean, there was at one point where I was seeing 40 students at a time, and I had Jessica's, and I'm like, who, Jessica H, Jessica F, you know, I'm like, no, I'm not giving quality guidance. I need to, you know, cut back. And I also need to focus on my own problems.
Yeah.
You know, my own goals. And so I think it's at a good point now. It's at a really good point.
Nice. Well, are you currently at capacity, or should people not bother messaging you?
Always message me. I can let you know. If I don't have availability, I can always.
I really teed you up for that. And then you were like, I actually don't want to work with anybody.
That's the thing. I don't need to. I'm very selective with who I take on. I want to make sure that we are a good fit for each other, because I do invest so much into my students. And so, I don't need to. It's not my number one, but I do love it. I do really love
It's a passion.
coaching. Yeah.
That's nice. Well, you guys go and hit up Real EmilyJoy on Instagram. DM her anytime. You can also see her at the SPCP out in Texas. If you'd like to go, are you doing live trainings at the moment?
I am. I actually just started doing fundamental. I would in the past, I only did advanced, and I have my first fundamental training coming up soon.
So much work. So if you guys are down to get into the business, head on down to San Antonio. She's got your back.
Yeah. Thanks, girl.
And Emily, I will see you on Telegram. I have to go get my freaking kids. Mom life.
Girl. Mom life is real.
Thank you for making time with me today. I know we had some weird schedules today.
No, I appreciate it. I have a blast talking to you. We'll have to catch up after this.
Yeah, we will. And I'll definitely have to have you back on again. I want to talk after your first fundamentals training about how fundamentals have changed.
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right.
Girl.
See you guys next week. Bye.